It's casual, not formal. It's hosted by Rory Penland. Oh, with Jonathan and Renee in tow. It's time to start the show. 1, 2, 3, go!
All right. Good evening or good afternoon, wherever you are. This is It's Casual. We are back officially. We were hoping to get back last week. Didn't happen, but we are back now. And it's good to be back. Had a long vacation, some of us, and I hope we're better for that. And let's bring Jonathan and Renee up.
Hello,
I'm here,
good people of the planet Earth.
Now, Jonathan didn't take a vacation. Jonathan was going.
John never takes a vacation.
Yeah,
he was rolling through like a freight train.
Working vacation. I actually have to leave in about 2 minutes' time because I've got another thing to do tonight with another show that we're doing. But
you don't want to be here, do you, Jonathan?
I just stopped to.
You're too busy.
I just stopped in to say I'm happy that It's Casual is back. I'm happy that all of us are together again, and I cannot wait to see who all we get on this show in this new season. I'm very excited. We're
starting off strong. We have a great show tonight. We're gonna make our second attempt with John Biner next week.
Yes.
Hopefully we can get the Tech Gremlins out and get a full show with him and get stories from him. That hopefully will be next week on the 10th. That's what we're shooting for. So, Renee, are you there?
Always.
She's wearing her invisibility cloak.
Yes, this is my I Choose Awesome hat, which is a Tom Cheshire original. We all have those.
The Harry Potter invisibility blanket. Thank you, Renee.
Yes.
The I Choose Awesome invisibility blanket. It's a little better than just an invisibility blanket.
Oh gosh.
We have some videos.
Why are you wearing the invisibility cloak?
Because I look like Swamp Thing. I'm protecting everybody's. I'm protecting everyone's eyes.
Ladies and gentlemen, my co-host Jonathan Phipps and Swamp Thing.
Hello, everybody. I exist. Did Swamp Thing have a voice? What was his voice like?
Here's the thing, Renee. First of all, I'm the one who's Swamp Thing here. Being clean shaven takes a little bit of that away. But so yeah, Ray is. Here's the thing.
What is going on?
Here's the thing about this. Here's the thing about me and Ray's friendship and creative partnership. She is both the brain and the beauty of this thing. I'm just here for moral support.
Except if you go to his IG, you will see some steamy photos. He's like a model.
I'm convinced she has posters of those selfies in her house. She has posters of those selfies in her house.
So what if we all do, John. I feel like there's
now, Renee, are you saying...
I find your selfies to be very misleading.
Can you stop? That is not true. It is identical. No, look, both of them are accurate and true, Rory. Both of them are accurate and true.
He's got his selfie moments.
Oh,
listen
yes,
my selfies are very deceptive. I am the biggest catfish there has ever been.
I've never heard you describe yourself as a catfish.
It's a term. It's a term. Like because if someone sees my selfies and they're like, "Oh my god, I bet he's hot," and then they see me in person, like, "Oh god, what sewer did that thing crawl out?"
Can you stop? Seriously, this is crazy. But I do want to challenge Rory Penland to the selfie challenge, and for him to do a John Phipps selfie. I double dog dare you to do a John Phipps selfie.
Well, that's not hard to do. I have one good angle. That's it.
I got one angle too. Like I got one angle.
Here's the thing.
Like this.
Here's the thing.
Yes,
my
do
eyes
it.
And nose and my mouth. And
do
my
it.
Mouth closed and no chin, no.
It's gonna be so hot.
One thing more about me and Renee: we are the most unconfidently confident people you will ever meet.
I don't even know what that means.
Unconfidently confident. Like, we'll take these great selfies and all, but we'll just run ourselves down in the process.
Well, at least we know our limitations. We are two people who know our limitations, which is a very good thing.
Yeah,
Jonathan
that's
worked
true.
like a freight train and took a lot of selfies over the break. Renee, I hope you got something out of the break.
Well, the main thing that we got out of the break is we got 3 videos that we do need to queue up right now, because there's been an update with Binky. And some of you people may remember the saga with Binky.
Let's save that one for last then. Show the other 2 if that's possible.
Okay,
and,
well, one of these characters, and I say character in a way because he's eccentric. I feel he's a little eccentric.
Don't talk about jelly cake that way. Come on.
How'd you know? How did you know? All right, let's see what he has to say.
I've seen the videos.
Let's see. Oh, you saw them. Oh, I didn't know you saw the videos, Rory. Okay, let me play it.
Yeah, man, this here's Jelly Cake Megan. So glad to hear It's Casual coming back now. Yeah, man, I always love your show, man. I always like the guests you have on your show and what you do just makes me so happy. And I hope I can come on your show too, maybe do a little corn dog blues for you. Play a little air harmonica. So again, congratulations on coming back from your vacation. And I hope you have a good show tonight. All right.
That was awesome.
That was a John selfie just a second ago. He was peeking over the side.
Yeah, I saw that.
That's my actual look. That's my actual look. I gotta go, y'all. But
all right, bye,
Renee,
JP.
Rory.
Bye.
Renee, Rory. I
Go
just
take
want to
some
say one
selfies.
thing more before I leave.
Yes.
I'm so happy this thing is back. This thing's gonna shoot through the stars. It's gonna go past the stars. It's gonna be a great go of it. I'm so happy it's back. Rory, Renee, I'm both so very proud of you. It's going to be a good go of it, and I wish all the best for both of you.
Well, thank you.
right,
That was a little
Jonathan.
champagne
you.
on the ship there for season 2.
Yeah.
All right. I love that. Bye,
Love y'all.
JP. Tell the girls I
Love
say hi. Bye-bye.
Have fun with the girls.
That's right.
They think he's steamy.
Well, he is steamy. I'll tell you that. Yes. All the girls in the world think he's steamy. But we do have another video of someone who's maybe not so steamy, not to be rude, but I feel like he's maybe not at the John Phipps selfie level steamy.
He's a particular cup of tea.
He's a particular cup of tea, and let's brew it right now, shall we?
From Los.
Oh man, it's so good to have you guys back. I missed you so much. I can't begin to tell you how much I missed you guys. So good to have It's Casual back. That makes me smile.
Stuttered a little bit.
I didn't know that he was such a fan. Did you? Did you know?
Yeah. Are you kidding? He's
it
been
meant
trying
that
to get
much
on the
to
show
him.
since the beginning.
Wow.
He wants to get his own. That's Mad Jack for people who don't know who that is.
Mad Jack, yes.
Yeah, he's a prospector out in Vegas. He wants to get his own reality show where he's panning for gold out there, and he pans for gold, and then what little he makes, he goes to Vegas and blows it on the weekend every weekend.
Well, I think that would be a great show. I don't see why he hasn't been picked up yet. There's no reason why not. It must be bad management. I don't know.
It could be a lot worse. I mean, I've seen a lot of reality shows. I'm like, come on, seriously.
No, seriously, like even the premise is better than most reality shows in reality.
Well, and again, the gold shows are pretty much all the same thing,
Yeah, if you've seen one, you've seen it all.
To see him go to Vegas and just whoop it up every weekend would be worth the price of admission on the show anyway.
I feel like just watching Mad Jack.
I like them dancing girls.
I feel like just watching him clip his toenails would be enchanting.
Well, okay, I guess you did need a vacation.
He's a very interesting man. He's a very interesting man.
And here a minute ago you said.
I know. I'm just I'm a Gemini. I'm two-faced.
And now you're talking about his toenails.
Let's not go there. Let's talk about Binky. Binky, this was a long-awaited update. I feel like a lot of people have been inquiring.
Jonathan just a minute ago really was like Paul Schaefer on David Letterman.
Yes, he really did.
Did that come across?
Yes, it did.
You guys are wonderful. The show is wonderful. You're gods.
He's what?
But
But it's all heartfelt. Yeah, it's the Southern Paul Schaefer. That's what it is. Okay, let's show Binky. I'm so excited. I gotta show
Binky's
Binky.
back. I thought he died.
Binky's back. No, see,
I thought that old crazy lady killed him.
Everybody assumed that she ate him or some shit, but actually that's not what happened.
He was in danger, I thought.
Here's the update for everyone who's been asking.
Hey everybody, it's me, Binky. I survived that crazy old lady's house. She was gonna cook me. I'm back out in the wild again. I know I can't go back to Chip Cop's house because, he's just gonna turn me out in the wild anyway. So I gotta find another place to go to. Oh, I hope this video gets to Rory so he can put it on his show. Someone needs to adopt me.
Adopt Binky.
I feel like this is going to be out of the frying pan into the fire. There's going to be some other person with bad intent. It's going to be her
I
nephew
wonder if
or
Bob
something.
Ross could use him up in Athens, Georgia.
Oh,
as
yeah.
bed and breakfast.
Why don't we arrange for him to go to Beach Haven? I think that would be beautiful.
Maybe Jay Link would like a support animal, a raccoon.
Yeah, he would be so happy with Jay Link.
He wants to be adopted.
Yeah. Like Joanne. Hey, Joanne, we see you.
Hello, Joanne. Trying to get the visual images out of my head.
And Sandy said feetfinder.com. Oh my God, that's an inside joke. You don't want to type that into your browser. Trust me. Please don't do that.
Well, people who are suffering from depression now, people are saying go to meetup.com.
Oh, meetup.com. Okay.
MEATUP. So do not type in MEATUP.com. Okay, that's all I'm saying. Just don't do it.
Just don't do it. If you respect yourself, don't do it.
That's not going to help the matter. That's not going to help.
Okay.
It's going to hurt.
Let's not do that. All right.
Let's go ahead and bring up our first guest. We have a double dose of comedy tonight. Both of these guests have been comedians, still are comedians to some extent. And the first one we're going to bring up is Phil Perrier, who's been in the business quite a while. Hello, sir.
Hey, how are you, Rory?
Doing fantastic. Good to be back. Great to have you on the first show coming back.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Honored to be. This is the beginning of season 2, huh?
I'm not sure if this really is the beginning of season 2. I thought we started season 2 a few months back, but but we've done
I'm
over
your
50
replacement
shows
guy
now.
for John Biner couldn't make it, and I'm the bitter disappointment you got.
No.
John Biner, that's
we actually got about 10, 12 minutes of John Biner a couple weeks ago, and he was having Wi-Fi issues on his end. So we're going to shoot for it again, and his daughter's going to be there to help him with the tech issues next week. So
he was on Soap. I mean, he was on Laughing. I mean, he's got a legend.
Yeah, 60s and 70s, man. This guy ruled.
Yeah, he
ruled. He was on the Carol Burnett Show. He was on the Ed Sullivan Show quite a few times. He was the guy that really kind of made the Ed Sullivan impression that everybody else does.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. No, he's brilliant.
So we're very
I'm not
happy
going to be
have him
anywhere near as funny as John Biner. I can probably see that.
Well, I don't know. I've been watching your YouTube videos this week. You got a great stage presence. You're a good writer. We're going to talk about that a little later on. But you've been doing comedy a long time.
Yeah, I started open micing in '85 when I was 21, and then I started working the road, in '87, right when the comedy boom was booming. It was like, when did you start working the road?
I actually started working. Well, I started working in a comedy club as an MC in '88, the Comedy Corner in Tampa.
So that's
where I built up my routine. I started late. I was actually in college at the time, so I was again in my mid 20s because junior college took 4 years. Anyway,
I bet the word coconuts rings a bell. Being a Florida I'll tell you what, they had a lot of work.
They do. They still do.
Yeah, I mean, I went to the Cayman. Thanks to Bob Shoemaker, I went to the Cayman Islands and St. Martin. I mean, it was quite fantastic. Actually.
St. Martin was the most awesome gig.
Oh my God! Well, I like the Caymans because I went scuba diving during the day, and then the shows were actually, because usually resorts are not great show, but the shows in the Caymans rocked.
Yeah. But St. John's, we took a catamaran over to St. John's. I'm telling you, I've been all over this globe.
The Belongo, right? The Belongo Resort. In St. Thomas, St. John's, whatever.
Yeah, St. Thomas was where the gig was. Yeah.
Right.
But if you went over to St. John's, that is one of the most beautiful places on this planet.
Oh yeah.
Every time you're driving around a mountain going up, And every time you turn a corner, you're like, oh my God, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. This can't get any better. And then you turn another corner, you go, oh my God, no, this is the most.
It's even better. Oh my God.
I've ever seen. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Yeah, that was a great gig. And again, the Cayman Islands, like you said, scuba
Oh,
diving.
yeah.
I've never scuba dived before or since.
Yeah, me
But I
either.
loved it. Yeah, but I loved
If it ain't free, I'm not doing it.
And they gave you the nice whip resort course
Yep,
in the swimming
yep.
pool.
I'll tell you what, though. I mean, once you're in the water, the fish don't care if you got the resort thing or if you're a certified diver.
It's a whole different world down there.
Yeah.
And I kept telling myself, I'm going to do this again. I love this. This is really, really amazing. And I just look at how time has flied.
Yeah. Well, you may again at some point.
You never know. You never know. At my age, though, hey, so now you're based in Atlanta.
I'm in Atlanta now. I was in LA from 2000 to 2018, and then my mom passed away 3 years ago, and I moved back to Atlanta. And then since then, the big news I put out my documentary film that had been languishing for too long due to circumstances I'd rather not go into. But so that's been a huge just weight off my. I felt like I took a cosmic dump when I finally got that released.
So you're talking about one-nighters.
One-nighters, yes, sir.
Yeah.
If you were going to get to that, I'm sorry for I'm so excited and fired up.
No, it's okay. I can jump around my notes. I'm good.
All right.
But it is quite an accomplishment. You've got close to 2,000 hits on that now. And a lot of good commentary from comics, other road comics who've seen it and said, oh my God, this brings back everybody who is going to be a comic on the road or is a comic on the road, or even if you're just interested to know what the life is like, you should watch that.
Yeah,
you really should.
It's authentic, but I'll tell you what, some comics it's been too close to home. I mean,
I saw some of the comments about, I can't watch this in one setting. It brings tears.
Yeah, Tim Wilkins, who's a brilliant, good friend of mine and a Florida guy. He was like, man, this is I got PTSD, because if you've done those gigs, it can hit pretty close to home,
Yeah. Well, and again, I'm a huge fan of Tim Wilkins and Jonathan, who just left. I'm like, he's gonna hate missing this show because he's a huge Tim Wilkins fan.
Yeah.
So you got some of the last footage of him, actually.
Yeah, I think Tim Wilson was great. Billy Gardell was great. Jerry Farber. When I asked him why do you do comedy, and he's kind of said a thing about there's just something about a room full of strangers laughing. It's almost like hearing a baby gurgling, or it's like. It just brings, it really is like future, it's what did he say? He said it's like, it paints promise for the future. It's like, one of those things that sounded scripted, but it wasn't. It was just off the top of his head, Yeah, I mean, just these great like Daryl Rhodes. I mean, these real road warriors, who just were Billy Gardell talking about their stuff. I mean, Judy Tenuta, it blew my mind.
Yeah, Tenuta was on there. You said it was not easy to get her to come do that.
Well, it was my fault because I lived in Studio City and she lived in Sherman Oaks, but I forget I was having a hard time lining up a camera person.
Uh-huh.
And at one point, I think she was like, "Yeah, I mean, I don't know, this is like 15 phone calls into it." She's like, I was like, "Judy, please, God," I begged, I processed, and then she was absolutely brilliant. She was playing the accordion. I mean, it was.
Right.
Once you get her going, there's no stopping her. But I was becoming a pain in her butt for a while. So I was really, when you're making a movie with like zero budget, like, I want to come to your house and pay you nothing. It's a hard sell. I must say.
Yeah. Well, and again, I've been trying to get her on this show, and she has not answered that question anyway.
Well, but if you pursue, I mean, she's brilliant. I saw her one time. I was doing there was a Comedy Zone in Toledo, Ohio. And she was playing like the big, A room in Toledo, Ohio. And I went and saw her because it was like she had 2 or 3 shows on a Friday night. And I just had the one show. I went and I have never seen anybody just pummel a crowd the way Judy Tenuta. She destroyed, she killed them, and just, she's got so much confidence and she's so funny. After that, I was like, man, I got to have her in the documentary, and she was brilliant.
She is quite a woman. I mean, again, like you said, the confidence, and she's, I guess that's the most, she's so sweet too. I mean, off the stage, she's such a sweet person. I
She's
don't
tiny.
know
I mean,
anybody
she's like 5 foot nothing. I mean, she's a
Yeah.
little flip of a thing, but just, I mean, 1,000 laughs on that tiny little body. You said that guy just said something about in Cayman Islands, there's a town called Hell, which I remember.
Yeah, Charlie
I
said
remember
that.
going there.
They should paint it red so we can find it.
Yeah, you go. Yeah,
Because you know the comics are going to want to hang out there.
It's the Hell gig.
Grab a bottle of tequila. Let's go. On YouTube, you have quite a few videos. You were on Arsenio.
Yep.
There's a couple of
I
videos
wrote
there
for him and,
on the Arsenio. And when you come on, you basically are a sit-down comic. You're not really a stand-up comic.
Yeah, now I
And-
had a surfing accident in 2005, so I walk badly and I sit on a stool now. But
Yeah.
I miss the pacing around. But what are you going to do? I think I'm
Well, it's
funnier
not like
now.
you're Ollie Joe Prater and you're 400 and something pounds and you've got to sit down. But he knows Ollie Joe Prater.
I
Most of the
remember,
crowd
yeah,
doesn't remember.
I saw him at Jerry Farber's. I was like, this tiny little club. I was 10 feet away from Ollie Joe, and he was. And the thing is, like, people said he was a thief, but really his act was so stock. I mean, it wasn't like he.
Yeah.
It was just like he did every stock joke you've ever heard in your life. And he came out and he said something like, people look at me and they think, I bet he doesn't get a lot of ladies. I bet he doesn't get a lot of ladies. Like, that's not true. I don't get any ladies. But he crushed. He was.
I got it like now.
But man, I mean, he had like big appetites. You know what I mean? He enjoyed.
I swear to God, one night we were after the show, we were drinking at the Comedy Corner, and he was sitting at the bar on a bar stool, and he was drinking, and we're all talking and having a good time and everything, and all of a sudden, this huge wham, and the whole floor shook like Jurassic Park.
It was a flatulence.
He had fallen back.
Oh.
In his bar stool and hit the floor. And again, he was like 450 pounds.
Dead weight, yeah.
So I mean, the whole damn club shook when he hit that floor.
I bet he drank some more shots after that too.
Oh, of course he did.
All right, man.
Of course he did. I'm okay.
That's
I'm okay. So, yeah, you had an incident at the beach, I think.
Yeah,
right?
it was 2005, and I was living in LA, and I decided I was going to become a surfer, learn how to surf. And I was out there with my cousin in Malibu, and I got a small wave, and it buried my head into the sand and broke my neck. And I was floating like face down in the water, and I holding my breath, and somebody came and flipped me over, and I wound up in a helicopter going to the hospital. And I've walked with a cane and walked badly ever since. But, cautionary tale,
But you broke your neck and you're able to walk.
Badly, but yes. Yeah. No,
Wow.
Yeah. I could have been like a quadriplegic. I could be breathing through a ventilator right now. So, yeah, I mean, I'm lucky in that regard. Yeah. And then I got like a good 5-minute hunk, for my act, maybe even 7 minutes, I said this thing about like when you first get, I have a spinal injury, they inject you with steroids. And I knew I was full of steroids because I was talking like a professional wrestler. I'm going to walk again, brother. Mark my words. Obviously a bad Hulk Hogan impression, but I got some mileage out of it,
Who was the guy that did the Slim Jim commercials? I don't know many of those guys, but you sounded more like him.
Ravishing Rick Rude, maybe?
Man, Jonathan would know, but he's not here.
I know. There's some wrestleophile. I mean, now Dusty Rhodes, that was kind of my era.
Dusty Rhodes. Yeah, the Bionic Elbow. That's what I grew up with.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember Dusty Rhodes. Hell yeah. Well, by gosh, I've noticed that you're really good at working a crowd. From what I saw on YouTube.
I really didn't think that I did that very much, and then looking at the footage from the documentary, I was like, I do enjoy that. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, somebody yells something out, man, you reel it right in.
Yeah. No, it's fun, and then it's like if you can get back to your act, it's great. Sometimes you go off on the crowd, and then you're like, I have no idea what the hell I was talking. You're totally out of sorts. But if you're in practice, then you can like get off and talk to this guy, and then get back to your act, and then talk. Work them back. Like Jerry Farber is the master of that. Like he's got a loose like framework, a blueprint of his act, but he can work people in just like, like modular, just like, okay, here's 30 seconds for you and a minute for you. And then he gets back to his act and he goes back to this person, that person. I'm not that good, but I mean, it's just a lot of fun, and the crowd loves it. And it's genuinely improvisational. It's not just canned stuff,
Right. I mean, there are stock lines that you can use if you get a heckler,
Yeah.
Oh, just put that down anywhere. That was my favorite one. If anybody dropped a tray of drinks or something, or if the cash register is going
something like a watch. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, it's the Jewish wedding song.
Yeah.
I can't remember that one.
But I like to when I'm working the crowd, I like to actually just do stuff spontaneously and not fall back. But I all comics will fall back on a good stock line,
I saw a performer. He actually kind of performed while playing songs. It was kind of a strange act. And anytime anybody would heckle him,
you see that Joanne Grossman. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Roy.
Oh, yeah, and somebody said Macho Man was the character.
Randy Macho Man Savage.
That just sounded like.
Yeah. And I'm thinking I'm doing Hulk Hogan, but I'm actually doing Macho Man Savage.
You're
and
doing
not
Macho
even
Man Savage.
Huh? Experts out there.
Yeah, you're doing Macho Man Savage. You wrote for Jay Leno for a while.
Yeah, I started doing comedy in '85, and then I heard through the grapevine that Leno bought jokes from just whoever, if it was a good enough joke, right? $50 a pop. So
$50. I'd heard that too.
Which this is late '80s. That was like $500 in today's. So I go to Perimeter Mall where Jay is there for a Ride for Kids charity event. It's like 7 a.m. I look like Lee Harvey Oswald, and I go walking up to him and I'm like, "Hey man, I want to write for you." He probably thought I'm either going to get shot or it's going to be another freelance write. And so he wrote down his management number, and I called him and I sent him a bunch of jokes, and he used a joke out of the first batch. It was, I think PBS is running out of ideas for their specials. The other night I was watching one called Shemp, the Forgotten Stooge, and it's just like it's a perfect Leno. And after that I wrote yeah, he loves the Stooge. So
man.
Yeah. But I wrote for Jay. And then
all these guys would say that. Oh, $50 a joke. And I never heard of anybody actually getting through to Jay and actually selling a joke.
Oh, I sold him hundreds,
So you did it. You actually forged forward. You did it. And, you persevered.
And awesome. Man, I would go to tapings and I would just beg for a freaking job. Because after the taping, he would kind of hang with the crowd for a minute and take pictures. And I'd be just like, Jay, come on, man. I've been doing this for 15 years. Please, God, my mother thinks you're an asshole. Please give me and I don't have any, because there wasn't a lot of. These are great. Yeah. There's no turnover, and he was right. There's no turnover because these are great jobs. So I begged, but then he hooked me up with Arsenio Hall, who did give me a staff job. So yeah, Jay, my whole career, Jay was like the fulcrum, the centerpiece. And I learned how to write, monologue jokes, writing for him every day, just reading the paper and just writing jokes and pow.
So you actually just said that you worked on the Arsenio show.
Yes, I was a staff writer for the second Arsenio. This was 2013 and 14.
Uh-huh.
That's one of the show that I also appeared on. But I was a staff writer for that show, which lasted about a year, which was the best gig I ever, it paid great. It was, it's union. It was just, I look out the window at the Hollywood sign. It was like, I am a TV writer in Hollywood. This is literally a dream gig, and only lasted a year, but man, it was a sweet year, It was a very good year.
Oh man, one of my favorite songs, baby.
Yeah, Sinatra.
What's the best thing about being a comic? Since we're
talking
about our dream,
being on stage, just listening to the laughter, it's like you're a comic. It's our drug, just having those laughs wash over you. Yeah. Doing what you love, and then the like going to the Cayman Islands. You get to see the country, you get to see the world.
Hold on now. We're going to thank
not to mention a few waitresses in the 80s, but
for the greatest thing about being a comic. Wow, going to the Caymans.
It's pretty nice. Paid vacation.
It was a good gig. I never did the Cancun gig. I never got there, but
I worked there 2 weeks, and the second week the club closed. So that was kind of a good gig that turned nightmarish, but
you killed that
Bob
room.
owed me. Say what?
You killed that room.
Yeah. Well, and also it was like the most there was like no promotion at all. I heard people who came to the show said they went to the front desk and the people said, "Oh, that we don't do the comedy show anymore." I mean, it was just the only way they would promote the show was like guys would hand out flyers like half an hour. It was just it was the worst run. But hey, what the hell? It was a vacation.
Oh man, wow. Yeah, I was hoping to get to that one, and I never did. I ended up moving to China, and I never did.
Moving
never did
to
get
China? Good God.
Yeah, I went to China for 14 years. My wife is Chinese, so I went there.
Oh, wow. I was like, wow, I didn't. Like, you
taught English for a while, and then I came back.
Working the Beijing Funny Bone.
Well, I actually did a little comedy in Shenzhen.
I mean, I bet the English-speaking people love like America.
Well, that was it. There's reverse foreign towns there. They're like Chinatowns in reverse, and they got like round clubs where you can get a good steak, a good pizza, a good burger, and a comedy show, that kind of thing. You know who Bill Kirkenbauer? I was just talking. He lives in Thailand. Bill's great. He lives in Thailand now. We were talking, and he said, "I said, what do you miss about America?" He said, "You cannot get a good steak. And if you do, it costs a lot of money." Yes.
I was like, wow, I had not thought about that.
Yeah. Yeah, because the best steak they can get over there is from Australia. So it's hard to get like Angus beef over there from America.
Yeah. Well, you can't have everything. Now, is Chinese food in China similar to Chinese food here or what?
No, completely different. Completely different. Chinese people, when they come here and they try the Chinese food, it's been Americanized, so they hate it. They can't stand it. It's just not. It just doesn't taste the same.
Damn.
So.
Man,
so where can we catch you in the near future?
Okay, I've got I'm glad you asked. I'm working a retirement community in Inverness, Florida. I believe August the 23rd. So I don't think it's open to the public, but they're old people. If you just crash the gig, I don't think they can fight you off. So
I'll come in there and sing some Dean Martin then.
Yeah,
it's good to be here with Phil.
All my tired old stuff from the 80s is going to kill. I'm gonna just dust off all my jokes about walking to the TV to change the channel and shag carpeting and beanbag chairs and all. Secondhand smoke, all the fun's growing up.
Any gigs in Atlanta? We've got a lot of people from Atlanta watch the show.
Yeah, I'm doing some kind of private gig in June. Yeah, you can tell I am booked solid, Rory. And I would like to blame COVID, but I wasn't really getting booked that much before COVID, frankly. But
oops.
Me
neither.
Yeah,
but that's my bad. Not
it seems like now everybody that was from our era that was working the clubs, you're either working the cruise ships or you are not working.
Yeah.
And I don't the cruise ships, and not that they're not offering me gigs the cruise ships, but I did not like it when I did it. It was real corporate, and it's like if you make jokes about the cruise line, they get pissy. And I heard about one guy that had like a 5-minute cunnilingus closing bit. Yeah. So he's working a cruise ship, and it's got to be squeaky clean. And they're like, can you not? Oh yeah, we're good. So of course, just out of force of habit, he does his 5-minute cunnilingus, like it really, it very explicit, and he's explaining exactly how you do it. And not only did he get fired, but I heard a helicopter came moments after he left. Really,
and took him off the ship.
Yeah, he was extracted like a convict, who like,
and they pumped him full of steroids, and he said, "I'm gonna walk again."
Yeah, he was out of there.
You can kick me off now, but I'm gonna walk again. Damn it! All right, it was so much fun having you on the phone.
Thanks for having me,
having you on the show, Phil.
Thanks
Try
for
to say
having
that 5 times fast.
No,
and you're welcome to stay for the second half.
If I could leave though, because I've got to go pee, eat something, and then smoke some take some medication.
Okay.
So, but it's been a lot of fun.
It is legal medication now.
I live in Georgia, so let's just say I got to take some. Yes, you're exact. Thank you. You're correct.
Ching 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 ching. Your cool factor just went up in Atlanta quite a bit. Well, thanks
You're
again.
mouth to God's ear. Thank you, man. And I'll be in touch.
All right, Phil. And congratulations on your documentary.
Thank you, Rory. I appreciate that.
And I hope people go to see it. It's called Road
One-Nighters.
YouTube. I keep want to call it Road Gigs, but it's
you can see it on Amazon and pay for it, or you can go to YouTube and see it for free. So I know what I would do, but
there you go.
There you have it. Thank you, Lorraine O'Leary. You're so funny. Say, Charlie,
have
God
great
bless
audience
you, my
members.
friend. All right, man. You got nice viewers. Thank you, Joanne. All right, guys.
Unlike my old show, It's Casual from the late 80s and 90s when we had live call-ins and people would just, trash my guests. It was
You
terrible.
need a 5
Much
second delay.
classier.
All right, man.
Okay. Oh, wow. That was awesome. Again, brings back a lot of memories. And when somebody, who tours the Southeast comedy scene, I know what they're talking about, because that was me. We were there. We both did the same things. So let's go ahead and bring up our next guest, who I call her a Hollywood insider. She says, well, more like a Hollywood outsider. Let's bring up Bari Alyse Rudin.
Hi.
Hey there.
Hi. Bye, Phil. I'm sad I don't get to say hi and bye to Phil. I want to.
Is he still here?
I think he left to do his pills and his whatever, but I'm definitely going to check out his movie. And while you guys were talking, I was looking at his Facebook and I saw that he and I had 232 mutual friends. And I was thinking, how is it that we've never met or encountered each other? So,
I asked that before we started the show, and I guess you guys didn't hear me. I was like, have you guys met, right?
But we have 232 mutual friends, and a lot of those people are like real life good friends of mine, and I assume his. So it's funny how that can happen. And I also lived in LA, overlapping some of the time he said he did. I lived out there. Gosh, why can't I? Oh, he was. So I lived out there 1998 to 1997 to 2003, and I lived there one summer in 1990. But also another parallel is that he wrote for Arsenio, and I was a producer on the Keenan Ivory Wayne's late night talk show, which was like the first, they called it back then, urban talk show host, late night talk show host since Arsenio. So he and I have a lot in common. That Phil, I'm going to have to find someone to remove from my Facebook so that I can, someone who doesn't participate, that I can put him.
So you can put him in there?
I'm always at 5,000, and I'm like, I don't like to delete anybody, so I go through and I make sure first that everyone's alive. Sadly, that's sometimes a thing. You find out someone you didn't really know well, like past a year or two ago, like just Facebook friends, but not real life friends. Yeah, that's happened
so much lately.
Yeah, well, real life friends happening a lot lately. And then I'll go through it and I'll look for people that like have an account, but they haven't posted in 5 years. And I figure, you know what, they're not using their Facebook. So I'll remove them and then add the new person. That's seriously what I do because I'm always at 5,000. And even in my just regular day-to-day life, like I meet people, neighbors, fellow parents at my kids' school, and I have to add them. And I'm like, I don't like to take anyone off, like just for, difference of opinion or stuff like that. But anyway, hi, Rory.
Rory, we were talking about how your hair is fabulous today.
Oh, it's crazy.
Yeah,
actually.
You've got fabulous hair.
No, it's too messy. I usually don't like it like this, all curly and certainly on camera. But I want to say you have like the all-American face.
Well,
you have
thank
that.
You.
Yeah, I'm surprised you haven't been on like a million sitcoms playing the sort of John Boy.
I've been called a lot of dirty names in my time, but I've never been called all-American.
Yeah, but you have that in a good way. You have that like, oh, he could be everybody on every sitcom.
Well, thank you. That's why, you see, I should have moved out to LA when I was young and I was doing comedy, and everybody was telling me that. And like an idiot, I didn't go to New York or LA. I stayed in Florida. That's where my family is.
Okay.
And, meanwhile, Jim Burr, I used to work with all the time. He went up to Saturday Night Live. Daryl Hammond went up to Saturday Night Live. A lot of people went out to LA.
Well, I can tell you, I lived in New York and LA, and I was a comedian the whole time. Also worked my way up to be a writer producer. But I would have liked to have been on some shows, and I didn't get on them. So I was in New York and LA. So it doesn't automatically happen if you're in New York and LA.
Yeah, but I got the voices, Doc.
That's true. That's true. You do have the impressions.
And I'll be doing 800 of them in August. I did 600 a couple weeks ago. So
as I told you when you and I first sort of met each other in that impressions room, I'm very impressed with people who can do impressions because it's never been my thing. So, Mike Wilson's a good friend of mine who does them like you do. And I'm always just blown away by any talent that I don't have, and I don't have that one. I'd like to think I do. I mean, I'd like to sit there and develop it. And try to see it. You know what I mean? Like in my
I
head.
think everybody's got a handful of them, that they can do,
Yeah.
with their voice is close enough to where they can,
I think
and
in my
there's a lot of
head-
guys that do like 50 to 100 voices. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good ones. I mean,
Right.
nail it right on target. Mine's quantity, but not quality.
The ones I've seen are very good. Don't put yourself down.
Some of them are quality.
So let's talk about my Hollywood outsiderness. Yeah, I laughed on
Yes.
you're like Hollywood insider. And I was like, oh my gosh, more like
Well,
outside.
I've heard you tell great stories in Clubhouse, about some great times you had with people, who are famous.
I guess when I was working in New York City or Los Angeles, but now I, just like you, I am in the Sunshine State, and I don't
I
work.
didn't know you were in Florida.
I am. I'm in Sarasota, Florida. Yes.
Okay.
And only for the past almost 3 years. But
See, now, if I'd have known that when Mike Wilson came to Tampa, we would have called you. We got together in Tampa.
He knows I'm here. What a stinker that he didn't call me. He knows exactly.
Well, he put a message out, and I saw that he was going to be in Tampa. So I said, look, if you're coming to Tampa, that's an hour and a half away. I'm coming to see you.
I don't understand why he didn't tell me, but that's okay. Yeah, so I'm in Sarasota. In fact,
sorry, Mike.
The messy hair. That's okay. He and I are longtime friends. I wouldn't get mad about that. To cover the messy hair, I can add that. This is where I am, Sarasota. But yeah, so, there's no national or network television production down here. But I do, what's interesting hearing you and Phil talk, it's like I started doing stand-up when I was 20, and I was still in college. I was in Miami, and it was 1989. And then I started for real in New York City. Yeah. And then I started for real in New York City, out of college, 1991. And I think what's funny about doing it as long as you or Phil or me, and not being famous to regular people, right? But what's interesting is after you do this 20, 30 years, I mean, so many people. So you said when I was telling those stories, a lot of people that I started out with are really famous now, but like we were just a bunch of comics hanging out.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Again, the Regan boys back then were they hadn't quite broke yet. And then they went off to become famous, like you said.
Yeah, but other people too, like that that you like people like you said that ended up on Saturday Night Live, or even I was working at 30 Rock. I was an NBC page, and part of our job was working on SNL. So I was there with a whole bunch of the guys that were on SNL. And
along with Johnny Dark.
Who's that?
He's the guy that played the old page on the David Letterman show.
Oh, yeah.
That was his shtick. He was supposed to be a page.
Yeah, some pages have the Letterman assignment too, page friends of mine. But anyway, like when I was there, Phil Hartman was on the show, and Dana Carvey and Mike Myers. And they were sort of the senior veteran crew. And they had just brought on the younger guys, Farley, David Spade, and Adam Sandler and Chris Rock. And the way it worked there was a little bit of, I even hear them talk about it on Dana and David do a podcast now. And I've heard
I saw that.
Oh, yeah. It's really funny. I enjoy it. I've listened to
Yeah, they're just bringing on SNL members.
Yeah, exactly. To tell stories about the show. And they even mentioned how, David was in the seniors, and Dana was, and David came on with like the newbies. And so what was interesting was the year that I was in NBC Page, when those guys were all on the show and Norm came a few years later, the younger guys hung out with all of us, the pages, because they had a little more maybe in common, or I'm sure they hung out with their cast members too, but like as David Spade has said on their podcast, it was intimidating to some of them. Like, here we are with these guys, they're already legends, right? So they hung out a lot with all of us because they weren't yet famous. They were just brand new faces on SNL. So it is funny how the longer you're alive and in all of this stuff, eventually people that you knew when they weren't so famous become really famous, right? So, yeah. So,
well, it's being at the right place at the right time and being ready, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Again, well, Philip Wilburn very well. Who does the impersonation rooms?
Yeah.
In Clubhouse, he actually auditioned for Saturday Night Live, and unfortunately, at the time he auditioned, he was ready, but they already had Daryl Hammond.
Right.
so they give
Well,
you
and
a
I've
better
heard
impression of
that
it.
story told by a lot of impressionists that once they had Daryl Hammond, Lauren didn't need another impressionist. But there's a lot of great people that have tried out for SNL that didn't make it.
Jim Carrey.
Yeah, exactly. He's like the biggest one. I think that was a big faux pas on Lauren's, because he was amazing on In Living Color. So,
Yeah, yeah, his character work is just
oh
fantastic.
my God, he's so good, so talented. And now he's listed as a painter.
And he likes being a painter.
Well, yeah. I mean, he's done all there is to do. He's done all the movies. He's done anything he wants to do. I mean, I think a lot of people joke about Jim Carrey being like, out of his mind, but I actually think he's of such evolved mind that he's just he's evolved. He's so past all the bullshit and the ego stuff and a lot of
Crazy like a genius. He's
he's
brilliant. He does have a
I mean,
brilliant mind. He's very quick-witted.
Yeah, people don't get that it's not about being nuts. He's brilliant. Like he doesn't need to. What does he have to prove? I mean, he's done blockbuster movies, right? So now he wants to paint. Good for him.
Yeah, and again, his painting's good.
Exactly. Well, when
so
you're
why
talented
not?
and creative, I feel like almost anything you do is going to be good. Like if you're creative in one way, I find you can usually be creative in many ways, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I know that my art will be forgotten over the years.
I didn't
but
realize
there's a lot of artists out there that are going to be the Van Goghs of 200 years from now,
Oh, I didn't
that are going to
realize
be the Picassos.
See,
And I'm sure Jim Carrey's work will way far outlast what he's done for cinema.
I don't know about that, but I do
Not
think
saying that he hasn't been great in cinema. He has. He's been very original and interesting to watch in cinema. But again,
I don't know.
Oil paints last a long time.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I've never tried my hand at painting. I don't know that you do that.
I do.
Oh, I think actually I did see something on your Facebook page that yeah. That's a great talent. I always think I'm going to take a class, but I never get around to it. But that Van Gogh immersion that's popular in the whole country now.
Yeah. I keep missing it. I keep saying I'm going to go see it. I missed it in China when I was in China. That was the first place that I had the chance to see it.
Yeah,
it was so expensive. I was like, oh, come on. I've seen the real ones. Jeez.
I know. It's interesting. It's a different way of looking at it. But I went to the one recently in Sarasota, and I was saying to my friend, they started out with the history, his life, and you're looking at all these sort of images of his life and talking about he and his brother and he and his parents, and before you go into the immersion. And I was saying, imagine this guy, with kind of a sad life, certainly a lot of sad internal stuff going on. In his, he has no idea that here we are hundreds of years later, the whole country, going to see these immersions of his paintings. And that's what's amazing about fine art.
The whole world.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, really amazing, because his life was sad, he had a lot of, inner sadness before they had antidepressants to help with that. So, he was tortured. And then to think, he died pretty young, and he would have no idea that his art is now studied and it's touring the country. I mean, it's amazing.
It's funny you said the thing about the antidepressants and stuff. Yesterday I read something from somebody, and it really clicked with me on the depression issue. My daughter suffers from depression, and we're battling that right now.
Right.
And of course, we watched Gary Goldman's set about depression, the Great Depression, together, and it was really, really eye-opening for us. We really enjoyed it. But as soon as 20 years ago, we didn't have what we have today, as far as the kind of therapy sessions we can do and the kind of medication we can take.
Right.
20 years ago. We've made huge strides just in the past 20 years with that.
Oh, absolutely. I know that from firsthand. I've seen you write about your daughter, and I've meant to tell you off air, like, feel free to reach out to me, because I know a lot about the subject. And yeah, I struggle with it myself, and I've been on medications since I'm 20. And definitely there were no SSRIs when I started meds in the 90s. But I do a lot of advocacy and education for mental health and suicide prevention, because you don't know this about me, but my mother shot herself when I was 3. So she had depression. And my mother's cousin, 20 years later, killed himself. And then 6 years ago,
We
my
mentioned Rich Jenny
brother.
earlier. Richard Jenny shot himself.
Yes. But I'm just talking about my family, in my personal family. And then
Right.
6 years ago,
Right.
my brother hung himself. So we have a lot of depression in our family and anxiety and mood disorder and all of that, but also PTSD from seeing our mother shoot herself. But you know,
Right.
and then I have the chemical proclivity from obviously, you know, genetic predisposition, but I also had all the circumstances, you know, that would make a person depressed. So yeah,
Right.
I know a lot about the subject. So if you any help with your daughter, I'd be happy to talk to you about. But yeah, I mean, the medicines
reach
I'm
out
on
to you.
now, yeah, like the SSRIs, they did not come along until, I mean, maybe the end of the 90s. When the first time I was really depressed, they put me on disipermine, which is a medicine nobody uses now. So that's the thing that's so unfortunate, like how, you know, we just lost Naomi Judd. Um, we're living in a time where we do have more, not just great SSRIs, but we also have DBT and EMDR and all these other modalities that can help with depression. But the thing that people don't understand is that when you get really bad depression, and I don't mean a bad day, I mean when you're depressed, like she talked
Right.
about, when you're depressed where you can't get out of bed and you can't call someone to go, hey, I'm depressed, talk to me. You can't go brush your teeth and you can't take a shower. When you're in that mode,
Right.
there's no way, like people say, oh, just call. Like when I'm in those modes and when I'm, you know, lonely or in that it's like depressive, suicidal, or missing my family, or like, you know, complicated grief, complicated loss, I'm not going to pick up the phone and be like, hey, so-and-so, I feel like shit, cheer me up. So what people don't realize is we need to reach in. You know, it shouldn't be upon the depressed person to make that call. When I'm super depressed, I can't call a suicide hotline. Not that, you know, I mean, you just don't have it in you to like get up and reach for that phone. Your brain is stuck. And,
Right.
you know, so really what I do with a lot of the suicide prevention stuff that I go around and talk to schools and corporations and whatnot for the past 10 years, and I've been trained by the American Foundation of Suicide Prevention, is teaching people like, you know, you've got to reach in. So, you know, your daughter has a proclivity towards it. One of my kids does too.
Mhm.
It's upon us to, you know, be making sure they're okay and helping them and reaching in. If we're
Right.
going to sit around and wait for the person, you know, if people were waiting for Kate Spade or Anthony Bourdain or Naomi to say, hey, I can't, and each of their families have said, this wasn't a shock to their families. Like they've all been struggling for 20, 30 years. You know what I mean? Like not any of them were a surprise. I mean, they were all struggling for that long. So if you know someone in your family or one of your good friends struggles, the biggest thing is you need to reach out to them. If you really give a shit, you need to check in and go, how are you? Are you doing okay? Like
Right.
that's all it needs to be. But just an acknowledgement that you understand, you know, I mean, I've had physical injuries. When I have a physical injury, people offer to like bring me food and help me out. But when I'm in a really bad depressive episode, people aren't bringing you food. I mean, you're alone in it. And I read all these articles about Naomi Judd, and it's just so sad. And all the stuff she said about her own depression, it's just so sad that I think people who don't struggle with it do not understand what it's like to be inside the depressed brain. You
Now,
know?
I haven't read these articles. I knew she passed away, but was it depression related?
Oh, it was suicide. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize she had
Yeah.
she had committed
She
suicide.
spoke about it publicly. She wrote a book and she talked about her struggles with depression. You look on my Facebook page, I put some quotes from her book and from her interviews about the book, where she was full out saying, people don't, I mean, not now, but you know, later look at it. She said people who don't have it don't get it, but she was like trying to explain what it feels like inside a suicidally depressed brain, which she had been many times.
Right.
And then this time, you know, she didn't make it. I mean, she fought it off many, many times. She was open about it and talking about it. But like I told my psychiatrist a week or two ago, like I'm in a pretty good state of mind lately. I broke my wrist a month and a half ago. And I said, the wrist is in so much pain that I don't have time for the emotional pain lately. I said, so jokingly on my podcast, we joked about how we're going to start a business where we just beat people up, help people like get hurt just enough so that you're not, that you can't feel the emotional pain, but not so much that you're dead. And that was a joke on a podcast. But my shrink, I was telling her this and she was laughing. And I said to her, but the fear always is. I said, I'm happy that right now I'm in a decent state of mind. But the fear always is, how many steps are there between the lowest I get and where my mother was when she shot herself, and where my brother was when he hung himself, and where my cousin was when he killed himself, or any of these public figures you see. I mean, if you're a person who struggles with major depressive disorder or repeated, depressive, episodes, that's the fear. It's like, well, those people were rationally talking about it one day and going on the news and advocating, and then one day it gets so bad, and you always worry, like, where is that? You know what I mean? How many steps are there? I hope there's a lot of steps, but
Now, you mentioned the pain, and do you think this is why people self-abuse?
What do you mean?
A lot of therapists that we've talked to, or I shouldn't say a lot, we've talked to a couple, but they're worried that Tina will abuse herself. She scratched up her wrist. This was my
okay, self-harm
in January. Yeah, so that's when I had to Baker act her, and
sorry, that's
hard. but it was just scratches. It wasn't. I mean, it was just enough to set up a red flag and a lawn.
Well, that's good that she didn't cut, because I've met a lot of people that do the cutting. Well, I think there's two things with it. I think one is when you have really bad psychic pain, and emotional, psychological pain. I've never been a cutter. I've never gotten into that self-harm, but what I've understood from people I've met who do, it's like it almost feels like a release to them, because it's one thing that they're in control of how they feel. When your mind feels like you can't control your mind, it's a very scary feeling. So when they cut themselves and they feel the physical pain that they, I did it, there's the result, that helps people feel like they have some kind of control. That's one thing I've heard. And the other is just, it's sort of tied in with the low self-esteem that sort of goes with depression and things like that, like a low sense of self-worth. So there's a part of you that feels like, I don't deserve to not have, right? So people feel like that. So I think
that's what I'm having a hard time getting a lasso around that part of it. I think my daughter's fantastic. I think she's wonderful. She's beautiful. She's talented. But she has no self-esteem, like you said, at all. She has no self-confidence or self-esteem.
Well, I'm happy to talk about this with you anytime off air, because I'm sure it's not what your people tuned in for tonight.
Wow. Yeah, this actually took a turn
but
I wasn't expecting.
But you know what, though? I mean, how many comedians kill themselves? How many actors, public figures? How many times does it have to happen before we just normalize the conversation?
George Sanders, Freddie Prinze, like you said.
Well, I mean, the conversation just needs to be normalized. Like, it's no different than if you had cancer. It's, if you had a problem with your lungs or your heart, this is your brain, and there's a brain chemistry issue. It's no different than any other part of the body. But because of the years of stigma, calling it mental illness, it's really brain illness. It's, your brain is not functioning right.
Yeah, it's chemical. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you were talking about your daughter. I'm sure she's great. But my sister-in-law was real upset because last week, and she just yesterday, was it yesterday or the day before? Yesterday, she was sitting at the funeral, but she told me about a week ago that a girl that she knew from her daughter, and they're involved in the National Charity League. And this girl, it made national news. She was a runner for which university? A big university. She was track and field star. The girl was, everything, a superstar. And she just killed herself. And it made it to like the New York Post. And I've met other parents of teenagers who are like rock stars, and they kill themselves because sometimes it's the perfectionism. So they never feel like they're good enough, even if they're doing things at a really hard level. There's a lot that goes into it. But all I can say is, the more we talk about it, just like we would talk about cancer or anything else, the more that people understand it's not something you have to hide and be ashamed of, even though I still am personally not doing well. I don't really reach out to people because I always feel like, I don't want to bother them. And only the ones who've had it themselves really get it anyway. So I don't reach out one-on-one, but when I feel like shit, but I am, at least in the past 12 years vocal about it because my mother died in 1973. And when she died, it was total stigma. Nobody talked about it. Our family told us to tell people she died of cancer. You know, don't ever tell anyone she shot herself. Don't ever tell anyone she died of suicide. That's a fucked up way to grow up, carrying a secret like that. You know, to go through your childhood and your teenage years pretending your mother died a different way than she died and not being able to even have a conversation. We never went to therapy. We never, you know, so I think it's very important, and it's kind of like my mission to just be, let's talk about these, you know, difficult things, because
Let's educate.
yeah, well, and you know, when you talk about things that are difficult, you show other people that, like, it's okay. You can talk about reality. Everything doesn't have to be a fucking rainbow filtered Instagram feed, you know?
Right.
I also have a great life, right? I've produced over 20 national television shows, you know, New York, LA, network syndicated. I've performed all over. You know, I've also done really great things and exciting and interesting things. And I've had this very full life. At the same time, I've had like enormous grief and loss and enormous pain from family members dying and then from my own depression, you know, but I think that's also important for people to know, like it can be both. So when people go, well, how could she kill herself? She was getting the CMA award the next day and she just performed a month ago, because you learn how to put a smile on your face, right? And show up okay, you know, and obviously that's what Naomi Judd got good at too. I'm sure your daughter, like you can put a smile on your face and pretend, you know, which is what a lot of people walk through life doing most of the time. Most of us don't walk around telling people how crappy we feel, right?
Right.
So anyways, do you want to talk about something fun before we end this?
Well, I was going to ask you about your fundraising. Is this the kind of thing that you do fundraisers for?
I do. Oh, well, the fundraisers I mentioned to you is I do some fundraising for American Foundation of Suicide Prevention and for NAMI, which is the National Association of Mental Illness. But I've also done some really big ones for Trevor Project. I got to work with Carol Burnett on the LA Trevor Project one, which is great. That's for LGBTQ youth, which does have a high suicide rate in itself.
Yeah.
And, you know, just for things that I care about, like organizations that I care about, there's one called A Better Chance, where we had it in my old hometown, where you bring in kids from disadvantaged communities who are highly motivated in school, and they get to go to school in like an affluent suburb and live in a house, and it changes the trajectory of their life. So that, the Fresh Air Fund, like things that I've personally volunteered with, I'll organize fundraisers for and sort of bring in celebrities that I can through my producing or my comedy. And that's been a whole other level of fun. Like you and Phil were talking about the, you know, those one-nighters. And I think of the one-nighters I did out of New York to like Pennsylvania, New Jersey in the beginning. And they are such hell gigs in every way, you know, in every way, like just the getting there, schlepping in and out of New York City, but also like the comic with a car is considered, you know, a big commodity because they can drive to the thing. And it's like, even if they suck and even if they're doing it for 2 months, like just a whole weirdness to those one-nighters. But so to me, I would say these fundraisers, like big fundraisers for big causes, feel like the opposite of that. You know, things are done in a really nice, like 5-star kind of way. Things are done well and professionally. And so I feel better myself in those kind of environments than in like, you know, some
now
shitty
cap says SRQ on it.
Yeah, so that's the Sarasota. SRQ is Sarasota's airport code.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's why I said when you were talking about Sarasota.
I thought maybe it was another fundraiser.
No.
You kept touching it when you were talking about certain fundraisers.
Fly into Sarasota Airport. It's SRQ.
All right, got it now.
Yeah.
Sarasota's got an airport?
Yeah, we have our own airport. We do. Rory, do you get out of Orlando at all? How do you not know that? Yes, we have our own airport.
MCO.
We also have Tampa one an hour away in Fort Myers, but Sarasota has its own airport, which is like
I started out comedy in Tampa. Tampa's
so how do you not know this? An hour away, so it's fabulous.
I know,
it's a small airport, so you never have like lines and all that.
Ringling Museum, I've been there.
But I do want to say, Ringling Museum. I do want to say to your audience that if they do want to hear me being funny, I am on this podcast for the past 4 years, and it's called Community News Podcast. And we are an
award-winning podcast.
What's that?
an award-winning podcast.
It is, yeah. We're always in the top 2% of podcasts globally, and we've charted in all these countries as well as this one. But we play characters. I play Sasha on the show, and my partner plays somebody named Paul, and we're pretending to be the podcast hosts of a community news in some community, right? But it's amusing. So if people want to listen to that, they can find that Community News with Paul and Sasha. That's somewhere you can hear me being funny, not talking about suicide or mental health.
But very important as well.
Very important.
Again, we educate, and it helps. It helps people. So
Absolutely.
I was so happy that I heard Dick Cavett talk about it on Clubhouse that one night. You were there.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, sure.
Eddie Brill brought him in.
He's had huge, that's the thing. It's like the more people tell people their real life experiences, the less somebody like your daughter or my son, when he felt it, have to sit there and feel like, oh my God, why am I feeling this? And nobody else has ever felt this. Like I always tell my kids, you will probably feel it at some time in your life, partly because of the DNA we have, but also just life can be hard. Life isn't, life's hard on its own. So I always told my kids since they're little, if you're ever feeling like this anxiety or worry or fear or panic and you can't sleep, you need to tell me, first of all, because they're now 15 and one just turned 18. But while they were little, I would always say, you need to tell me. And I would always tell them there's a solution to every problem, which I did not grow up in a house where that was the thing. My dad was kind of not, it was very difficult for my father after my mother killed herself. We were 2, 3, and 6 years old. So he had 3 kids under the age of 6, a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 6-year-old. And he didn't know what to do with that. My dad, he was a New York City marshal in Brooklyn. So it was his gun that my mother used to shoot herself. So my dad had a rough time, and he was not like a little kid guy, and he wasn't a super, I loved my dad, but he was a tough guy. And so he also kind of had his own mental illness, like probably undiagnosed stuff, but he was volatile at times. So my dad did not make a place at home that felt like for every problem, there's a solution. So I've been really conscious with my kids, telling them since they're little, for every problem, there's a solution. But if you don't tell me the problem, I can't help you. So now they're older. And now I'm able to say, now, when you go to college next year, one of them's leaving in August. He has a person here that he's talked to about when he's been depressed. I said, you can call her anytime or text her, but also there's a mental health facility on campus, but I think that families that are still living in the 1950s or the 1970s on this topic who don't talk about it with their kids, thinking, well, if I say it, I'm going to suggest something. No, you're going to put them in a worse situation, because when they suddenly feel all those feelings, whether it's triggered by a breakup or failing a test or who knows what, if no one's ever talked to them about the fact that this is very human and very normal to feel these feelings, I feel for those kids, I hope they get to see me speak at their school, because I try to reach as many people as I can with the fact that, like, there is help. And even if your own family can't help you, there is help. And, once when I was very, very depressed, and I've had at least 32 serious depressions in my life. Once I was very depressed, and I was talking to my psychiatrist, is when I lived in LA. And I said, like, sometimes the medicines don't work, or your body gets used to them and you need to try a different medicine or a combo. And I was so frustrated with the medicines not working. And this psychiatrist said to me, here's the thing though, depression is actually the most treatable of all mental illnesses. I hate that word. I really think it should be called brain illness, but mental illnesses, it's the most treatable. Like schizophrenia is really hard. Personality disorders, they don't even have medicines for, but depression we can treat. He's like, you just have to hang in there long enough for something to work. But I don't think that message gets out there either. Like, people need to know that depression is treatable for the most part. I mean, some people are medicine resistant, and that's what Naomi Judd said she was, and that's the hardest. But if you hang in there, I mean, it's not easy though. It's not like, oh yay, get some medicine and feel better. You just went through it.
Right. You have to get the right medicine, and that takes some doing. You know, it
Yes,
takes time
it
and
certainly
takes
does. It certainly does. And
experimentation.
talking about comedy, you know, there's been times when, like, if I'm in a bad depression, I don't want to get on stage and do stand up. I don't even tend to
Right.
post on Facebook because I don't want to. The thoughts in my head are so dark,
Yeah,
and
you don't want to leave your room.
well, and it could be dark humor that like
Yeah.
some people would maybe get, but I don't even want to put that out there, right? So I
Right.
just isolate. But there's times that I've been booked for things and I don't know a depression's going to hit, and then I'm in the middle of one and I have to go do a show.
Mhm.
That's really hard when you're depressed to stand up there and try to be funny.
Yeah.
That's hard. Yeah.
I saw the clip in Gary Goldman's where he was trying to do comedy, and it was just painful to watch him on stage. You could tell he was depressed. You could tell that he was not there about making funny, you know.
Mhm.
And but we're gonna have to get you back on this show so we can talk about your comedy and your TV shows and all
Oh
the
yeah.
things we didn't
Oh
get
yeah. We
to.
didn't talk about all that stuff, but
But
I hope
we
everyone
will.
I hope anybody who watches this will check out my podcast, Community News. It has a white and red logo, and it says with Paul and Sasha, and
Okay.
it's funny. So it's an episodic, it's a serial episodic, but you can just tune in to any. We drop it on Tuesdays. You can tune in any week, and you'll catch yourself up with what's going on, or you could listen to all these episodes back. But you know, all the feedback is it's really funny. So if you want to laugh with me instead of have me make you cry, you can check out that podcast.
Awesome. We went overtime because I wanted to give you
Oh, I'm
equal
sorry.
time. You know, we went a little over with Phil as well, so I
Oh,
wanted to give you equal
well,
time.
anyways,
And
anything to ever
again, there's a lot to you, so we're gonna have to get you back on
Well,
again.
thank you. Sure. Anytime you, if you want to talk though off air about stuff with your daughter, I mean, I'm very
Yeah.
well versed in that area.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. Thank
Well,
you for
thanks for
being so
having me on
helpful.
your show.
Yeah.
Also, that's my SRQ hat, Sarasota. Crazy
Okay,
hat.
Renee, go ahead and bring us out. Thank you again for coming on, and again, we'll have to get you on again soon. Thank
Okay,
you very
sounds
much.
good.